Well, the last few weeks have been pretty busy, haven't they, for most of us? I'm sure that many of you, like I am feeling a bit tired from all of the activities. And if you notice that it's in the midst of all this seasonal mania that we are generally bombarded with lists of all kinds. Lists of all kinds of shapes and sizes and purposes, grocery store lists and shopping lists and gifts for all kinds of things. And then there are other kinds of lists we encounter, especially this time of year. Have you noticed that top 10 lists are a sign of the Christmas season? Top 10 Christmas songs, top 10 Christmas stories, top 10 Christmas carols, on and on and on and on. Well, the other day, I don't know why, I was feeling a little restless. I was working in my office, and so just for fun, I decided to Google the best top 10 lists of 2016. And in 0.68 seconds, 82 million hits came up. I had a hard time picturing even 82 million. It's like envisioning a light year or something. It's just very difficult for me. But there was one list that came up that immediately caught my attention, and it was the top 10 ways you know you're from Colorado. And this is just a little bit of what was on the list. I'm not going to go through all 10, but some of these I found to be pretty appropriate. You know you're from Colorado if anything below 8,000 feet is a valley. You know Vail Pass is absolutely misnamed because it's not a pass at all, but a parking lot. And you know you are from Colorado if your friends from other states call and ask you for gummy bears for Christmas. Now, maybe if you're not from Colorado, you don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe that's just as well. Well, another list that popped up highlighted bad Christmas presents, and here were a few that caught my attention. One Christmas gift was actually a velvet box with engraved nail clippers inside, and also strips of Oscar Mayer bacon inside. I was trying to put all that together, velvet box, clippers, and bacon. And then another gift was actually online. You could buy it, a $25 Target gift card with 32 cents left on it. And then the last thing I'll mention are the top 10 ways you know the Christmas season has caused you to totally lose it. Number one on the list was you spent an afternoon coming up with a reindeer pot pie recipe. And then my personal favorite, you decide to buy your spouse a bathroom scale, only the scale does not have numbers, but rather pictures of animals of various sizes. Yes, for some reason, lists come out at Christmas time, and lists are a sign that it's Christmas time. And the word sign itself is kind of an interesting word. There are all kinds of signs. There are gestures that can be signs. Physical experience can be a sign. An object can be a sign. Flowers can be a sign of affection. And then we get to a tougher group of signs, the signs of our times. Now, if you and I were to think of the signs of our times in 2016, it would be fairly easy for us to come up with a very long list of negatives. There are a lot of really bad things happening all over our world. Sad, tragic things happening even as I speak. And such things are often the sole focus of what we hear or what we are exposed to. Now, I want to be clear that it's important that we don't put our heads in the sand. I don't want to deny my pain. I don't want to deny the pain that you may be in your own lives. But it's important to remember that in being aware of what's wrong, we always need to remember to take a look at what is right. Because the good is always happening in the midst of the bad. And so just for a moment, I'd like to share some of the positive signs of our times. There's so many. They're all over the news if you look at them and look for them. This is just what I found, just a few things. Recently, there was a third grade teacher who found out a first grade girl in her school needed a kidney transplant. So she went to the hospital, found out she was a match, and gave the kidney to the first grade student. That's a sign of our times, just as much as any other sign of our times. Do you know that another 10-year-old kid decided to collected 11 million pairs of shoes and sent them to orphanages? That's a sign of our times. Do you know that huge strides have been made in treating cancers of all kinds? That's a sign of our times. Scientists are learning how to link robotic limbs with the brain. That's a sign of our times. An Afghan teacher recently rode a bicycle delivering books to villages without any schools. A 9-year-old girl decided to collect bags of goodies for children who were suffering and their families who were camped out in neonatal intensive care units. That's a sign of our times. The U.S. and Mexico agreement to revive certain aspects of the Colorado River a number of years ago has been deemed a success this year. That's a sign of our times. If we pay attention, there is so much right going on in the midst of all that is wrong. The signs are absolutely everywhere. What is right in the midst of what is wrong is to be found. Now, tonight, the reason that we are here is that we are celebrating the birth of Jesus. And hopefully with hearts of joy and gratitude and hope. God chose to come among us in the flesh as a person as Jesus. And what's interesting is that he chose to be born in a very tumultuous time, a chapter in history in which there were extreme divisive alliances, along with seemingly unbounded animosity, despair, social upheaval, vast economic differences, hatred, and overwhelming uncertainty about the future. And he chose, I believe, to be born at such a time to show humankind that our faith is ultimately about an intimate relationship with God. Now, when it came to Jesus, we know that Jesus had a knack and a way for turning things around and upside down in every which way but up. And to help us focus just for a moment on Jesus, whose birth we celebrate this night, I want to just touch on a few things that he said that turned things around, that I think are very relevant for us to think about in our culture. And as I utter these words that Jesus said, I want you to think not only that they turned things upside down in his day, but they actually continue to turn things upside down in our own day. From one version of the Bible, this is what Jesus said. He said, "You have heard, love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say, love your enemies and pray for those that are giving you a terrible time. Let your enemies bring out the best in you, not the worst. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say revenge is never the way to go. I say don't hoard treasure down here on earth." It's turning everything upside down, isn't it? Does it sound like that's in alignment with our culture today? Try and relax. Don't be preoccupied with getting. Instead, respond to all of God's giving. Give your entire attention to what God is doing right now. Don't pick on people or jump on their failures or criticize their faults. You are blessed when you are content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that cannot be bought. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Bring to me all that is weighing you down and hurting you. Trust in God. Trust also in me. Astonishing things that Jesus said and so much more. The same Jesus whose birth we're celebrating this night. But Jesus didn't simply speak, did he, and teach. He acted, and he did things that blew out the boundaries of what is possible. Here's just a sampling of some of what Jesus did as described in one version of the Bible. Jesus brought a little girl who had died back to life. He fed thousands of people with a very small amount of food. He healed a paralyzed man, healed a number of people of horrific diseases, walked across the water of a stormy lake, helped a man regain his vision, brought a dead guy back to life, released a person from tormenting demons, filled up a boat with an astonishing number of fish for fishermen that had been skunked all day long despite what they did. And that's just a sampling. It's just the tip of the iceberg of what Jesus did. And then on top of all that, when religious people, and they were the most religious, couldn't let go of control and had to maintain their power and couldn't accept that God was doing something new, they had Jesus nailed on the cross. And as he died, he did something even more astonishing. He forgave all of humankind. And then 3 days later, the most earth-shattering thing happened. He was raised from the dead. The tomb was empty, and death was and is no longer our ultimate destination. This is the Jesus whose birth we celebrate this night. Just for a brief moment, I want to look at one detail of Jesus' birth. Now, the night Jesus was born, we are told and we heard, there were some shepherds staying in a field nearby. And as the shepherds were there, suddenly an angel appears and speaks, and the shepherds were understandably terrified. And the angel said, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people. The Savior, the Messiah, has been born in Bethlehem, and you will recognize him by this sign. You will find a baby wrapped snugly in strips of cloth, laying in a manger." And so the shepherds went looking for that sign, and they found Jesus. With this tidbit of the birth story in mind, and what some of the things that I said about Jesus earlier, and all that we know about Jesus in mind, as I think about all of this, as I think about Christ, as I think about this world that is so tough, so hard-edged, so skeptical and cynical, filled with so many insurmountable problems, I wonder and have to ask, can we still find Jesus? Is the living Christ present here with us right now, continuing to lead and guide and teach and heal and forgive and challenge and transform each and every one of us just as he did long ago? In fact, is there some kind of sign that Jesus is here right now in this space with us, doing what he's always done? Is there some kind of sign that Jesus is acting in your life right now? Well, the short answer is yes. You see, the night before Jesus was crucified, he said something critical. He said, "I will not abandon you. I will come to you, and I will be in you." Now here Jesus says he will not only be always with us, but that he will be in us that close and present, in us leading us, in us guiding, healing, challenging, forgiving, transforming us. And there is, in fact, a very clear sign that this is the case, that Jesus Christ is within every one of us right now at this moment. So what is that sign? Listen carefully to these words from Scripture. God is love. All who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. As we love, we live deeply and surely in God, and God lives in us. In other words, love, my friends, is the sign that Jesus Christ is alive and well and living in you right now, and living in me right now, and living in the midst of this messed up world. Jesus continues to do what he did way back then anytime love shows up. It was love that was behind everything Jesus taught. It was love that led Jesus to heal people and to heal you and me. It was love that propelled Jesus to forgive us. It was love that raised Jesus from the dead. God is love, and Jesus was God in the flesh. Want to be in touch with God within you? Love. Want to find Christ within you? Love. Wonder where the Christ is in your life in the midst of whatever it is you're dealing with? Love. Love is the point of it all. Love is the purpose of it all. Love is the sign that Christ is alive and well. Oh, how we muck that up. It is that hard, and it is that straightforward and simple. So as we gather for our Christmas Eve service tonight, what we are really doing, if we pay attention, is celebrating the most astonishing gift and reality there is. Love. That's what this night in our lives are about. And God, who is love, is our constant companion and my and your final destination when it's all said and done. Love, love, love. Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength, with all your soul. Love every other person in exactly the same way. And Jesus said, you will have gotten it. Love. Merry Christmas.